Hi guys, I'm Will, lead coach at Cedardale Communications. I work with clients on their objectives for their personal lives as well as their career objectives overall and how to achieve really better results in the long term to really shift your life, to give it a bit more meaning. Now, today, what I'd like to focus on is leadership and how to really get the best results from your team. Now, when you're a leader, all eyes are on you. They look at you for direction. People admire, respect you for getting things done. And the opposite is also true. If you do go in directions against the grain, you'll tend to find that irking people will not really produce the best things for your team, for your bottom line, and for your objectives. Now, no matter how competitive your environment is, the most important thing to keep in mind is you are working with people. And people on their own are quite complex, bring a lot of issues to the workplace that maybe they shouldn't. But it's all part of your behavior, and the workplace is really where you're going to be spending most of your week. Now, in order to be able to get anything out of any interpersonal relationship in life, I find is you need three key elements. So the first one's integrity, honesty, and respect. With those, you can start building and you can start really developing strong relationships with others. And you'll also be operating from a sense that people will know where you are on the way that you behave yourself and on the way you talk to others. Now, I guess my best advice is always see yourself as a bridge builder and not a bridge burner. When you're burned, there's really, the way back is very hard, and a lot of people have been there. So, going into what you really need as a leadership, I guess one of the most important things you need to be aware of is no matter how you look at the organizational chart in your company and your organization, is you'll see as a manager you're at a certain level and you may have people below you. You may be also just a manager of a portfolio. Still, there are aspects of this that will be helpful to you in the way you deal with others. Now, the most important thing is to see that there really are no subordinates. The team, when you look at it, you should approach it more from a shared knowledge perspective. When you step in, especially if you're stepping in from outside of the organization, you've never been there before, the people you will have around you, your team, they are the knowledge experts. So look at them towards knowing really what can be done and what needs to be done, what's more of a priority, what's more of an issue. If it's coming from further up in the food chain, it's going to be a lot harder to understand whether or not these people are really connected to the bottom line, if they really know what needs to be done. They'll know the greater picture, but they won't be able to know the nitty-gritty that's really on your team's floor. I guess as well, from taking off from that perspective, we can move on and say as well, the next important thing you need to be is a buffer. Now, whatever's being trickled down, your team knows what policies are an issue, what structures or processes may be a little bit bogged down. So make sure that you are not really reflecting that pressure down to the team. You want your team to be motivated. You want your team to be looking forward to come in and tackle more things. And you especially want your team to know that you have their back. That's the most important thing. So in your environment, when you're looking at the shared knowledge perspective of things, ensure that there really are no people left behind, no people isolated. When there are opportunities to contribute, make sure everyone has a say. When you have a group of writers, for example, that are coming up with content that they've been working on for months, that they're going to be publishing to your website to be able to attract new business, new clients, or just get the word out on a project you're working on. Make sure that you include people from your team that may not be directly tied to this. You can bring in an executive, an administrative assistant if you do have one, or just some people that you think might not really be directly tied into this because they might be able to see things that you don't. Things that your team have not even considered. They might go like, hey, have you ever thought of this catchy title? Or why aren't we talking about the other things? Like, say, for example, this person expensed a bunch of stuff for a research project that they went to gather information. And they said, well, what about this project that you guys went on? Isn't there anything that you guys could throw in there? Now, ensure that it's always an environment that, in general, every idea is a good one until you realize that, you can prioritize them and say, okay, this one's more important than the other. The person who will come in to contribute at first might feel like, this is not my thing, whatever. But they could also go like, well, it's interesting to be included. The worst thing you can do is really to sort of isolate people and say, okay, well, this is not a subject matter expert, or this person is just a clerical person. It's the biggest mistake you can do. There's some people that really, maybe they've found their niche, or they've actually taken a step down in their career because they needed something more simple, less responsibility because their personal life needed more attention, something like that. So when you do include them, you'll realize that they'll see you as someone who really respects other people's opinions, someone who listens, and someone who's really looking for something different. As well as the team that has been working on the project will appreciate that you also have their backs in terms of being creative and coming up with ideas to support them and what they're trying to create. The other important thing is, no matter how hard things get in the office, you as the leader, you always have to remain cool, remain the constant, remain the thermostat of what's going on in your office. It can be hard sometimes, but the most important thing you need to show your team is that any issue is just a speed bump. It's never the end of the world. Some teams are very charged, very dynamic. They're so immersed in their work that when something happens, it's a huge bang. One of the best things I can always remember is make sure you're not chasing the squirrel. So like a dog in the neighborhood sees a squirrel, just takes off and goes to try to get it. The dog doesn't realize this squirrel's going to go up on the tree and never be able to do anything about it. Now, that's exactly what we find. A lot of issues in the office that there really isn't much we can do about it. We might not be nimble enough to deal with the issue right away. So deal with the tangibles, and more than anything, to you as a manager, there's always a solution and there's never any blame. If there is an issue that comes up, something gets screwed up down the process, that always happens. It is a learning opportunity, and it's also an opportunity for you to show the leadership and say, hey, yes, we did screw up, this did happen, but here's how we're going to go to fix it, or here's what we will do differently next time, or maybe we should really be focusing on this. It's guaranteed there's always going to be something that happens, but you yourself always have to remain calm, cool, and even to some extent as well with your team, try to keep it jovial. If you're good at having little jokes that are not offensive to anyone, feel free to throw those in every time. Like, I don't know, are we basing everything on a 24-hour clock? That could generate at least a giggle, especially in a very high-strung environment. Having a little bit of levity always helps to kind of go like, ha ha ha, okay, get back to what's on hand. And invest in your team as well. Your team really is, sometimes you can pick them, sometimes you can't. But there are also a lot of times where they have skills that they're really not using in their workplace. There are also times where they can step up when someone has left the workplace, someone's away on sick leave, or there's an opportunity for that person to step up to be an acting manager or acting assistant manager or something. Give them always an opportunity, especially when they're looking for one, to see what kind of skills they can offer, to see what kind of leadership and desires they have. And you'll notice very quickly that when something comes up, something urgent, people will want to step up for you. They know that you do see something in them, and more than anything, keep your promises to them. So if you tell someone, okay, well, I'll make you acting next week or whatever when this one's away, or I'll promise to give you more resources when the next budget comes in, or I'll put in a good word for you with another manager in the department you want to work. Always make sure that what you are throwing out there are things that you can keep as a promise and follow through. Most important thing you can do is to really listen to them when they're looking for something, because once you burn that bridge, you're going to basically lose their engagement. And in a lot of situations, like any negotiation in life, you're going to be owing them whether you want to accept it or not. So if you can't live up to a promise, always offer some alternative, or always say, I don't know, put something in their evaluation, something positive, saying they stepped up when we needed it, therefore I think that should get a bit more of a bonus or something. There's always an opportunity. And from your milestones, when things get difficult, you've been working on them for a long amount of time, make sure that when something is over, when you've done something great as a team, you highlight it. You say, okay, you guys stepped up, you did this, or we're done this project, so who wants to go for pizza? Something simple like that. But always make sure that there's a time where you validate people's contribution. And if you're validating someone's contribution, make sure you don't forget the other ones that contributed to the project or to the milestone. The worst thing you can do too in that kind of situation, again, is to kind of isolate someone, even if it's by mistake. You say, oh geez, well, we should have mentioned you, really sorry. You don't want to be in a situation where you have to do that, but if it comes to that, do it. Never come to a spot where you just, we should have said something, but I guess let's move on now and hope they don't realize that happened. People remember these things. And especially when they're engaged, when they're producing, and when they respect you, they're going to be putting in 120%. You can guarantee it. So make sure you keep the engagement high, and that will just basically bring results to you. And more than anything as well, the last point I would say is always keep it professional. Now, this can be very difficult because you might have some people in your team that you find are very easy to get along, others that are a bit more disconnected, others that prefer really being left alone and not being asked personal questions. Now, I think the most important thing for our own health is to ensure that we do separate both the personal and the professional. If someone volunteers some information in terms of their personal lives, it might be something they're proud of. So you can acknowledge them and say, well, gee, that's really great, or, I'm happy for you, or congratulations on the new house, anything. Or you went on that trip you really wanted to, that's great for you. But don't put it in a sense where you really are seen buddying up with someone. We've all been in different jobs where we've seen like someone in leadership hire or promote a friend of theirs, and you know how that feels. You see how it is. Even when that person is competent, you can see the favoritism, like this person's gotten all sorts of opportunities and the rest of us are kind of sitting here. You don't want to create that kind of environment. No matter how strong your friendship is with someone, no matter how strong it is, the connection, and they want to come work for you, I would often say, well, you got to look somewhere else, or somewhere else within the organization maybe, but no direct rapport, because that'll basically destroy your dynamic of a team. People will realize and say, I'm not in the inner circle. And when you're running a team, it's very important for you to stay away from the dynamics of the high school clique. That is very destructive, and at the end of the day, a lot of that is also reflected within your organization and the corporate culture. But if you notice that's the norm, stay away from it. You'll see the results of your team based on what they do for you as a leader. Now, if all of this is something that you're working on, or you're considering moving into leadership, or even you're looking at how to incorporate some of these aspects in your personal life or in your corporate life, feel free to get in touch with us. You can do so. You can set a 30-minute free consultation with myself on our website. If you go to www.cedardalecommunications.com, you'll see that there's a little section that says contact us. So it's a 30-minute conversation, really, where we get to see what you want to achieve, where you're at in life, and see if there's something that we can do for you. More than anything, what we like to see, and especially what I love to see, is people empowered and living towards their purpose. A lot of us tend to sit back, and a lot of us tend to coast and really keep our heads down just to see where we get in life. But there's so much really out there, when you really go and you seize the opportunities, you go after what you want, the quality of your life just skyrockets. And that's my life purpose. I love to help people with that kind of stuff. And if you do have any other questions about our services or about what we can do for you, feel free also to send us an email at info@cedardalecommunications.com, and we'd be happy to have a quick chat with you, a quick exchange. Just keep in mind that it takes us anywhere between 24 to 48 hours to get back to you. And if you haven't heard from us, we do encourage you to check your spam folder. We may be in there. Some folders or some spam filters are better than others. And if anything, thank you very much for tuning in again. And we appreciate you, and welcome to the conversation. Have a great day.